from Studio 1A in Snowflake Village. You're listening to Pod Bless Kentucky.
All right, and welcome to the show. Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the show. And we are off on this April 23rd for our show. And I'd like to introduce everybody. We have Dana, as usual. We have Sunny.
Yo.
And joining our show this time, we have Jordan.
Hello. The millennial voice.
Yeah, our millennial voice for the day. Okay. Welcome to the show. All right, first I'd like to thank everyone who has been listening to our podcast and asking me, when is the next one coming out? Well, we try and get them on about once a week, and we do appreciate that you are listening. Okay, well, it's been a busy week. We had the Science March this last Saturday in Lexington, where we had almost a little, I would say about 1,000. I would venture to say that it was pretty good.
Yeah. I think so. I think it was at least 1,000.
Yeah, I'm going to say there were probably 1,500.
Oh, wow. If you didn't get a chance to come on out, there was a lot of great signs. Some of the favorite signs that we saw, I mean, there was Jordan's yours was really good. I was with the amount of rain that we were getting. What did your sign say?
Oh, I said it's a good thing Bevan built that ark.
Yeah. which is even it's snarky right along with the fact that it was pouring rain.
Oh yeah. What was you guys' favorite signs that you saw out at the march that day?
Well, my favorite was Science Gives Me a Hadron, for numerous reasons, but I appreciate a little bit of snark.
Well, they had a lot of great speakers. Trent Garrison, we really have to take our hats off for Trent for everything that he did with this project. And his committee, they really worked hard. They got the people out. They had 2 different locations. They started out at the courthouse and then actually marched down to Fifth Third Pavilion. And it's probably one of the best marches I've seen. Why?
Because we had a marching band. Shout out to March Madness Marching Band, the very first and only adult marching band I have ever heard of. Well, they call themselves what is it?
It's a drinking band with a marching problem.
Yes, a drinking band with a marching problem. They were awesome.
They were fantastic.
They were dressed
really
in
good.
costumes. They had the lab assistant. They had the bees. It was great. I mean, and they played some great tunes.
They played She Blinded Me with Science, which
was
is probably
amazing.
the most appropriate song for a science march.
Chicago might have had 40,000 participants, but damn it, we had a marching band.
And we had some great speakers. We had some of the people that we had there. We had Representative Derek Graham. We had Dr. Anita Femender. Okay, and Dr. Frank Ettinson. And they brought a whole new perspective to why science was and is very important in our lives. They did a great job. Like I said, it was raining.
Oh, it was so cold.
It was very cold.
Yeah, it was
so cold.
Unseasonable weather for Kentucky. And my favorite quote or actual speech was from Representative Derek Graham, and he really drew out what was important.
Quite simply, the march of human progress is a march of scientific progress. And if we care about our future, especially our environment, we better continue to let scientific inquiry continue to lead the way to even brighter horizons.
And I mean, that is so true. I mean, it impacts our lives and everything.
Did you all see, they also had booths, I guess, or tables at the Fifth Third Pavilion. And did you happen to see some lady, I don't know who she was, freaked me right out. She had those giant cockroaches.
Oh, the Madagascar hissing cockroaches, yeah.
She also had some spiders, and I saw
I'm glad I didn't see that.
I saw the Turaniums, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that is. And then I walked over and saw a fuzzy spider, and I was like, nope. Nope.
No.
I'm out of here.
I mean, we had a lot of people representing a lot of different groups, and the paleontology group.
The paleontology, they were giving
I
all
got
of the
little kids and me. I got a free fossil.
She got like a little seashell-like thing. They were giving out all kinds of just a little
something to take home and remember. Science is important. They had two rock bands. We had Tony Toy and Sorry Atari. And
They were both excellent.
They
They really were.
Yeah.
And multi-generationally excellent. It wasn't just screaming metal like
No.
I would like, and it wasn't just that sappy crap that some other people like.
Hey, they opened with the Beatles, so, I mean...
Yeah.
Perfect.
Trent told me they play at most of the bars in town, so I guess watch out for them there.
yeah, and Sorry Atari, we may hear them at other rallies. I know that they've actually put themselves out so they could actually go out and do more rallies, because they find what we are going out and persisting about very important. And I'm sure Tony Toy and his group of folks, they'll be around as well. So, I mean, great
and
music.
I hope March Madness Band comes back for I don't know what, but
Like I said, hats off to Trent Garrison and his group.
Absolutely.
They did a great job. And so we're going to get back in just a couple seconds. I'm going to talk about Blue Apron. Blue Apron, if you've never tried Blue Apron, it is a fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service that helps chefs at all levels to make delicious meals right at home. They take care of the menu planning and all of the shopping. They provide locally sourced ingredients with pre-measured cups and different things, and to make a great meal. We hope that you will enjoy it. If you'd like to try Blue Apron for the first time, you can go to our website at podblesskentucky.com and click on the link, and you'll get a $30 off coupon for your first trial of Blue Apron. We hope that it's really good stuff, so definitely give it a try. Okay, well, some of the other things that have happened in Kentucky, and progressively, the Kentucky Democratic Party, they just got a new executive director. Her name is Mary Nishimuta. Okay, Mary Nishimuta, Miss Nishimuta is... she is from Frankfort, Kentucky, and she owns a cafe there, and she has hosted many progressive events, but now she gets to host all of the Kentucky Democratic Party. And Miss Nishimuta, she has worked very much with the Bernie Sanders group. She was part of Bernie Sanders' campaign and bringing grassroots back to Kentucky politics. And that is so important because the Kentucky Democratic Party has taken some hits over the last few years, and it really needs to lean back and listen to the people back in town, in the small towns out in eastern Kentucky, lower south central Kentucky. That grassroots opportunity is amazing. So what do you guys, Mary Nishimuta actually was working with the Bernie Sanders rally that happened last Tuesday. So, we're going to see a lot of great things from her. Have you guys heard of anything with Mary, and hopefully, what are your guys' opinion on our new director?
Is she actually a progressive, like leaning more toward a Bernie progressive, or is she...
I would assume she is, since she worked with the campaign.
Well, working with the campaign and actually doing it, actually grasping it wholeheartedly and running with it, that's...
She wants a government that puts people and their interests first. So
I can respect that.
I can.
You know, the actual job of government.
And, she is actually quoted as saying, "My goal is to work with Kentuckians in all 120 counties to build a strong party that stands up for the people of Kentucky. I aim to fuse the passion and organizing strength of those who have recently answered the call to action with the deep experience of those who have been actively engaged for years to build a truly representative government that puts the people's interest first and not the interest of the wealthiest 1%.
Wow. I mean,
Well, okay.
yeah. I mean, she's got a big job ahead of her.
She's got a huge job ahead of her.
I mean, and we think she's going to do a great job. She's done well with the Bernie Sanders campaign. And, I mean, going from the Bernie Sanders campaign, I mean, there was a lot of not white collar, but blue collar ideas within the Bernie Sanders campaign. And that's exactly what the Democratic Party is about. We are the workers' party.
We should be the workers' party.
Yes.
We should be representative of the workers. And I think that's something that the Democratic Party has kind of swayed away from just because they need to compete with the Republican Party and people want to hear
You have to make
more.
money.
You have to make money. They want more.
Yeah. I mean,
We got to give her a shot.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Oh, I'm totally with
Oh,
you.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
what I liked out of her statement is that she's not willing to throw out the baby with the bathwater. She's going to work with these precinct captains in the different counties, and she's going to actually get stuff done. She's going to try and incorporate everyone into the mix.
I mean, I think this will be a good change of pace for Kentucky. You know,
We need the Democratic Party has to have something to shake it up, and if she can do that, more power to her.
And
Good
we
for her.
need more women in positions of power, too. So.
that's definitely true.
Definitely true.
And that's great. We also had, like we were talking about the Bernie Sanders rally on Tuesday, we had a few folks, I know myself, went over to Louisville and stood in the lines and talked to a few folks. And it was what did you think of the Bernie Sanders rally on Tuesday?
So Jordan and I were both also there, and we were volunteering for the Kentucky Democratic Party, which is a big leap for both of us. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the different people that were, just lined up there talking. I liked it, and I don't know.
I mean,
what
we
else.
really only got to see about half of it.
And,
Yeah,
and
we
there
only
was
got to
a
see-
large range of people there. There were people who were very interested in this whole unity tour with Bernie Sanders and Tom Perez.
And I think, so I know that you had a different experience, Tom, when you went in and you were talking to these people as compared to maybe what Jordan and I saw. Jordan and I both saw a good mix of, we heard people who said, we hope that Bernie can bring more platform ideas and more talking to the grassroots people and bringing the Democratic Party more into the grassroots foundations. As compared to then there was the other side there was one guy out there that was like, sign this petition and tell Bernie to go back to being an independent.
Right. There were all different sides of the perspective.
Well, see, the thing about that petition doesn't make any sense because Bernie has said, I'm not a member of the Democratic Party. I'm still an independent, no matter what this unity tour is. It's just you have Bernie-crats.
Bernie-crats.
That's what they're called. That's what they're called.
I never heard it.
We have to, as the Democratic Party, we have to do both. We have to fight both fronts. We have to pull both sides in, or this isn't going to work.
Right. I mean, the Democratic Party really, and that's my hope with the Mary Nishimura, is that she listens and doesn't just listen and say, okay, and pat the child on the head and do what she's going to do anyway. The Democratic Party really needs, when Bernie sits down and talks with you or talks with the group or whatever, he comes off as he's not only listening, he's actually taking your concerns and your ideas internally, and he is he's going to try and make something work. And if the Democratic Party doesn't start doing some of that, I think they're going to lose.
And I think your message resonates with a few other people. Here's a clip that when I was talking to a couple ladies that were standing out.
It is imperative to the future of our country that these two groups can come together on a common ground, and we've got to do this for our country, for our future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I think otherwise we're going to run into the same issues as we did with the election. There's too much division within the Democratic Party, and the ones that could not get over the establishment could not make themselves vote for Hillary Clinton, which is the candidate that we were left with, basically, is the reason that Trump is in office at this time.
And I mean, so that idea is kind of coming around, and there are a lot of people who agree with what we're saying, but you can't please everyone.
Well, you're never going to be able to, and I can see some people's opinions that pulling Bernie in and having him do, first of all, a unity tour sounds like a revival. I mean, it sounds a bit dog and pony.
Right.
But
it is something that we needed.
No, we do need that, but we also don't need to make a joke of ourselves either. And I can see how, from some people's perspectives, that's how they would view it.
Right.
You know?
Okay, so listen to this lady, and this is her
Well,
idea.
I'm hoping that somebody gets to ask Bernie if he's still behind the true grassroots movement and is not just bending over for the Democrats. And one thing I do know is that no matter what, Bernie has a plan in the end. I feel like the Dems are using Bernie, but Bernie's using the Dems. Okay. The Democratic Party is leaning too right, and they've lost the true left. And they're backed by big pharma, they're backed by big banks, they're backed by big oil, and anybody that's backed by that bunch of people can, you know what, to my rear end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So one thing she does say that I totally agree with is big money, corporations need to be out of politics, period, end of statement. They should not be able, that Citizens United bullcrap, that just needs to go away.
Well, and I do agree with her that the Democratic Party is leaning right on a global scale. If you look at the American left versus, like, the European left, you're looking at, like, two very different spots on the graph, you know?
I mean, and they have their point, and hopefully we can see eye to eye and come together.
I wish there was video of this sometimes because you can watch Dana and the wheels are like spinning and her mouth opens up and she's like,
well, I've been reviewing a lot. We had a lovely friend staying with us this week who is from Australia, and he pointed out to me that everyone looks at politics as a spectrum, and meaning there's a left side and right side and everything else falls one way or the other, when really politics is a circle. It's not a spectrum. And you've got, at 6 o'clock is center. So it's like a clock. 6 o'clock would be the center, and from 6 to 12 is the left, and from 6 to 12, 6 going backwards, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it would be the right. And so, but at the top of both of those, you've got fascism and communism. And so any movement back. So we could give up just a little bit of something, and we're going to act like the right gained a bunch when really it just moved a little bit closer to the center of something. And so there really is no true center. It's a constant pendulum swinging back and forth. And to some extent, how do you win a game that is rigged and when other people are playing with more backing, heavier? It's like the Yankees. The New York Yankees had the most expensive baseball team in the United States, right? They had the largest roster, largest paid roster. And for years, that served them very well, until, they started coming up with some other ideas on how we can win baseball. They use math and, everything else, and go watch Moneyball. But my point is
and
that...
go Cubs. No.
Yeah. My point is that things can change. The Cubs prove things can change, you know? So we've got to find a way to change people's minds without trying to shock them all the time.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I agree.
You just piss people off, you
right?
know?
But there is a point. You have to. The Democratic Party is swinging farther to the right to try and appeal to more people.
I agree.
While the Republican Party is like, hey, you know what's fun? Fascism. So I mean, there is that kind of swing, and there's the swing in the individual parties themselves, I think.
Right, and I mean, you're going to have people, and if they go too far left, they're going to ignore a large group of people that kind of have values that are a little more centrist.
Right.
And so they have to play a little bit to the right as well as to the left. And if you go too far on one side, you're ignoring one of those two areas.
Well, I'm trying to do in my personal life now, I'm trying to make sure I remember that I have to respect other people's views, even though they're different than mine. That doesn't make them wrong. It makes them different. Now, there are some things where I just think it's wrong. And, you know, sometimes you have to learn to agree to disagree. But within the Democratic Party, we're going to have to get to a consensus where we can say this is what we stand for and this is how we're going to go about it. We're never going to please everybody, but we do have to try to please the majority of people.
I agree with that. I
Yep.
mean,
that
I also struggle with that in my personal. I mean, it's easier when you have people. Like, if you see a guy wearing a Make America Great Again hat, you shouldn't, like, smack him across the face. But it's very hard. I saw a guy on a motorcycle with a swastika on his back. And not like you can confuse this for some weird biker gang kind of thing, but, like, an actual black and white swastika. And I was like, man, I should just hit this guy with my car. And then I was like, jail doesn't sound fun.
No. But we do have to come together. I mean, as a party and as try and find, and as progressives, we have to come together to be able to be successful down the road.
And I agree with that. My question is, for most Democrats, is Bernie the right person to try to hold up in this? I mean, what they're trying to do is grab all those people that were Berniecrats and try to pull them back into the fold.
Right.
You know, and so that's why they're doing what they're doing.
And it was very interesting. The women that were saying that we need to come together, and that they were very much Berniecrats, and they were actually in line right behind two ladies who were nasty women. They had their nasty women T-shirts on, and their big thing is that we have to work together, and this is what they had to say.
It's imperative.
It is imperative to the future of our country that these two groups can come together on a common ground, and we've got to do this for our country, for our future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I think otherwise we're going to run into the same issues as we did with the election. There's too much division within the Democratic Party, and the ones that could not get over the establishment could not make themselves vote for Hillary Clinton, which is the candidate that we were left with, basically, is the reason that Trump is in office at this time.
Yeah, that was the same clip we played before. Okay.
I voted for Bernie in the primaries, and then I was one of the people that voted for Jill Stein. I was one of those people that could not bring myself after what went down with the DNC. It's funny.
Yeah, so...
Because I had just explained to these beautiful ladies, these nasty women.
Yeah, these are the ladies that were behind the nasty
It was
women.
very difficult for me, after 43 years of being a registered Democrat, I actually left the party and became an independent. And so basically the reason I'm here tonight is I do want to hear what Tom Perez has to say. I do agree with these ladies that something has to happen where the country comes together. I'm not so concerned about Republican, Democrat, Independent. I want the country to come together.
Yeah, I mean, so in the big picture, even though she left the Democratic Party, she wants the party to come, or the country to come back together.
I get that, but you have to, in order to do that, you have to have a leader who chooses to tell everybody you have to come together, you know? And that is a choice, because obviously Trump isn't making that choice now. He's not putting the country as a whole, you know, every person who lives here, including the majority of people who live here who did not vote for him. You know, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about us as a whole. Or if he did, some of the things that came out of his mouth would be a little bit better, you know?
I agree.
Or out of his fingertips onto Twitter. So
yeah, really.
Yep. So, I mean,
Twitter.
It was very interesting because I did ask a lot of the people that were there that were very Bernie-cratic and that were just, I said, all right, is there anyone that you think that would be a good candidate? Someone who fits your ideals that you saw in Bernie Sanders? And it was very interesting. A lot of them said Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard?
Yeah, Chelsea Gabbard.
No, Tulsi.
Tulsi, yeah. Tulsi Gabbard is she a representative or a senator?
I think she's a senator. Let me double check on that real quick.
Okay. But they said that they see a lot of the things that through Bernie in her, and which that is pretty amazing. So
This is a real struggle for me in general, I guess, to hear people still speaking, you know, about how disenchanted, just not disenfranchised.
Yeah,
they feel, and disenchanted. I guess, is that a word?
Yes.
Everything that they feel with the DNC, you know, I get that. I really, really do. For me personally, it's really hard to even listen to some of that stuff still, because it's still a sore point. How much of a high horse can you sit on? You know, how much of a high horse? And ideals are great. I mean, we all have them, and we all should stand for what we believe in, and that's what makes us great, is they have the right to that opinion, and I can say you suck for that opinion. But
very true.
But that attitude, that prevailing attitude, factors into why we are where we are at this moment, why we have the leader that we have at this moment. So right. And that's one of those things that maybe, I think that every single time he does something, it pisses me off all over again, and I've got to find a way to let that go.
Right.
Well, I mean, the problem isn't, Bernie has said multiple times, we need to come together, we need to come together. And even before the election, he was like, no, you need to go vote for Hillary. Like, that's a thing. Right. It's people like other people I know who believe that they were personally wronged. And I understand that in a way. Sure. I mean, it's kind of like if I was Marco Rubio, I'd be kind of pissed. Because I lost the election because hypothetically Russia
not
did
hypothetically.
Yeah,
we've fallen into conspiracy theories and everything else in our world right now, and it's all like written like a bad spy novel. So, you know, you don't even have to add the theoretically thing in there.
I mean, I think Bernie became a much better person, being able to sit back and saying, okay, I know this happened to me, but I still think we need to come together.
That was huge. I mean, that takes a lot of character and fortitude to be able to do that.
And that I think honestly makes him a stronger person than I would be.
Oh, yeah.
Because it would be very hard for me to say, yes, I endorse this system that
totally
obviously did not want me.
Right. So Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about Tulsi Gabbard?
She's a representative from Hawaii, which apparently shouldn't be a state anymore.
Well,
I'm sure Hawaii would love to hear that.
The island,
Pacific island.
That Pacific island, or an island in the Pacific Ocean or something like that.
A judge in the Pacific island should have not that much power.
Sitting on some island in the Pacific Ocean should not have that much power.
But Tulsi Gabbard's actually pretty young. She's only 36, so she would not be able to run in the next election.
Correct.
But
no, you got to be 42.
Yeah,
42,
45.
I thought it was 42.
I thought 45. It was 35 at first.
No, 35 is
for state
Senate.
Okay.
25 is for representatives.
I could have sworn it was 42 for some reason.
No.
Maybe I'm just thinking of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe.
The answer to everything is 42.
But she was doing something recently.
I mean, it was.
Oh, she used to be the vice chair of the Democratic Party.
Oh.
And then she got in trouble when she said this was rigged.
Okay. So.
Oh, she resigned to endorse Bernie Sanders. Yeah.
Right.
You're right. So, I mean, so it's somebody to look at for the future. I mean,
Yeah, like 10
So
years
she's like
in the
a
future,
protege, so to speak, of Bernie.
No, but yes.
But she agrees with his values.
She agrees with his values.
And that was the big thing that a lot of people said, that they could back somebody who supported his values. And I admire that because, I mean, he had a great platform. I mean, and his platform hasn't changed through this Unity tour. A lot of the things he said was the things that he brought up during the campaign. And because those were important. They were important because it supports workers' rights.
Right.
I mean, one of the people that they actually had at that rally was Kyle Henderson. He is from Western Kentucky, from Paducah, and this is what he had to say.
I'm here because the working men and women of Kentucky have been under attack. Here in Kentucky, Republicans just took the House. They have the Senate and the governor's office too. They can pretty much do what they want. The first thing they did was they passed a right-to-work law. Then they repealed prevailing wage. This does two things that we know for sure. It lowers wages and increases workplace fatalities on a job site for all workers, union and non-union alike. With prevailing wage repeal, companies have the incentive to do the job as cheaply as possible. Well, let me tell you something, folks. Cheap labor isn't skilled, and skilled labor isn't cheap. You go cheap, people get hurt.
And that is the true sense of the American worker and the Kentucky worker. And that is something that is important.
So how is it that, you listen to his speech, and I agree with him, and I think he's wonderful. How is it that Bevin and Trump and the rest of these... Mitch. And basically the rest of these politicians can talk over that loud enough to sway the voters? Because
they're scared. That's when you have people like Mitch who go out every year and are like, we're going to bring coal back. We're going to bring coal back. And then you have one guy.
Lets coal companies influence him
after
to
36
not
fucking
sign,
years.
not to work towards the pensions and black lung benefits of these mine workers. We have 1 week left. If he does not put that into law, then the thousands of people who are receiving black lung benefits and miners' pensions will go without.
But even then, it still doesn't explain to me how, when you know that they're going to repeal the prevailing wage and you know that they want to make it a right-to-work state, why is that? How does that resonate so much stronger and better to the working class?
Oh, you mean, no, because they lie. They flat out lie. And people believe the lies because they want to. Because they need to hear what they want to hear, not what's fact.
Right.
I mean, it's like Friends of Coal. That's Friends of Coal companies, not Friends of Coal miners. I mean,
we have family out in Eastern Kentucky. And I have gotten in a lot of trouble at family reunions for bringing up mountaintop removal. Because, yeah, sure, it poisons the water, but it also maybe
might bring a job.
And if it's a single job, it doesn't matter that it's, the CEO's son. It's a coal job.
Very true. Greed plays a huge role in this. You have a lot of big money coming into Kentucky, and they're pushing their agenda. And many of these legislators see that they need the financial capital to be able to get them through the next election.
Right.
And so they will bend over backwards for these large corporations.
Well, and the corporation's going to favor the corporation, obviously not the worker.
Right.
Right, which is where the right to work and the prevailing wage laws come in. I guess I still just don't understand.
I mean, the key word with right to work is work. A lot of these people are afraid that, I mean, they're not.
And they have seen a mixed bag from other states.
Right. There's not a lot of cafe jobs in Pikeville, right? There's not a lot of engineering firms in Whitesburg. You know, I mean,
well,
if you drive down to Harlan County, what kind of jobs do you expect to see there?
Well, that's what I mean. They're desperate for whatever hope that they can have because it's the only job that they can have where they're skilled at what they do. They're not educated to do anything else. Mm-hmm. And it's the only way they can afford to to feed their families and to make enough money because what else is in the area?
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, what matters is you might be able to feed your family if they bring these coal jobs back. You're probably going to die of black lung in 10 years, but maybe your family will be provided for tomorrow.
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Not if Mitch McConnell doesn't sign that into law.
Yeah,
next week.
Mitch McConnell could.
And a lot of the regulations that they've rolled back makes it much more dangerous to mine coal, correct?
Right.
And so I've been reading a little bit about the fact that it's going to bring some questionable companies,
right. So
or practices into
You'll
the
have
area.
some very questionable practices.
Especially the right to work law, because that is literally a union busting law.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's all it does. So, in my mind, I would be thinking that every coal miner and every nook and corner of the county would be saying, no, we don't want this. Don't let this go through. This isn't actually going to help us get jobs. It's actually going to kill us off. So, maybe then they will get jobs.
Well, think about it. Think about it. The legislators. So there were plenty of coal miners and workers who showed up at the state legislature. At the Capitol building, and they had to walk by those people to go in there and vote down, or
vote against.
Right.
The best interest.
Yeah, and I don't even know how they can walk by people who are depending, to feed their families and who are just trying to do their job, just trying to get by. And, they don't care about protecting their interest. It's more about what's best for, and they guise it under what's best for Kentucky. And if it's not good for Kentuckians, how's it good for Kentucky?
Very true.
Or is it who has the best lobbyist?
Well,
that's very true.
I think we all know the answer to that one.
All right, well, we're going to transition into the news this week. So, Sunny, tell us what's happening in the news.
This week You Just Can't Make This Shit Up, we are at days number 88 through 92, and guess what, people? No bang this week.
All right. So what else has been happening?
Well, we've got a few things going on. First off, we're charging through and we're getting close to that 100-day mark. And actually, I was thinking we'll come back to the 100-day mark. Defense Secretary, let's talk about the Defense Secretary Mattis and how we lost an entire armada, so to speak. But we just lost it. So you have a sound clip for...
As far as the movement of the Vinson, she's stationed there in the Western Pacific for a reason. She operates freely up and down the Pacific, and she's just on her way up there because that's where we thought it was most prudent to have her at this time. There's not a specific demand signal or specific reason why we're sending her up there.
No purpose at all. None at all. Nothing like North Korea or anything.
Okay, all I have to say is I really should have listened to that clip first because I had no idea Mattis sounded
like
that's
Sean Connery. What I'm reading is we're all like,
what? He sounds like he has loose dentures.
I mean, I've read quotes by Mattis, and I thought he would be more intimidating sounding, but...
He sounds like
now
Sean
that
Connery.
Makes everything sound hilarious.
My apologies. We will go back to it now. So, On April 11th, let's get a little bit of a timeline here. On April 11th, Defense Secretary Mattis told reporters that the Carl Vinson was on her way up there. So that's probably when that clip.
Yeah,
that's that clip, right?
On her way up.
On the way up there, meaning the North Korean
That's
peninsula.
what I thought.
That vague area.
At least in the Western Pacific.
And the next day, on April 12th, or, well, I guess what aired on April 12th, with Fox News, Trump gave an interview, and he said, and I quote this, "We are sending an armada, very powerful, up to, again, the North Korean peninsula." The problem is that Trump, along with Mattis, must have just totally lost said armada, because the Navy on Saturday, April 15th, put out this beautiful photo, and it really is a beautiful photo, of the entire strike group. So there's the USS Carl Vinson, and then they have like 2 or 3 other smaller, we use that term loosely, smaller vessels that sail with it.
Aircraft carriers.
The Vinson is like a massive, like we're talking like 5,000 people or some huge number.
Yeah. Is it a destroyer?
It's
enough to get Kim Jong-un a little bit nervous.
Enough to kick ass if they really wanted to, also.
I don't think it made him that nervous.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that too. But anyway, so this photo that came out from the Navy on the 15th, and I kind of wonder if it was like a little salt in the wound, or like a little picking on.
I kind of wondered that myself.
Yeah, it came out and it shows them sailing through, and forgive me if I slaughter it, between the Indonesian islands of Sumatra and Java, right? And they were actually going to do joint exercises with the Australian Navy.
So nowhere near there.
Nowhere near. So in other words, all of the saber rattling was psychological warfare, except that if you're going to do psychological warfare,
that's supposed to be on other combatants, right? Not the people of the country.
Right.
Not only shouldn't it be the people of your country, you also should be able to back your shit up, right? So the Navy kind of went behind Trump and put the picture out showing it not in the place that Trump said it was going to be. So maybe you should at least have, as he put it, I believe there's a direct quote somewhere, "My military should actually..."
That's terrifying.
It is, but it should actually be on his side, right? So
Is
maybe
there
he
a-
should have informed. Maybe they should have been communicating.
Is there a rogue Navy Twitter that
Actually,
we could all
I
go
think
follow?
there is.
Apparently,
what?
that's
Maybe
the entire Navy.
I
at this
wonder
point.
if that's actually who released the photo. So anyway, so now we're going to fast forward to today. This came out just today. The Vinson Strike Group is now indeed headed to the Western Pacific. Photos to prove it, guys. Photos to prove it. The intention is actually to have a tactical training with Japan. But North Korea, who's, trick me once, shame on me, try and fool me again, I'm going to fuck you up, because this guy's crazy. They have issued a statement through their state-run newspaper. And now this all comes from CNN also, and CNN says that they absolutely cannot confirm the amount of weaponry that North Korea actually has. However, according to the state-run newspaper, the editorial is ready to illustrate its military force by sinking a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier with a single strike. This is how this paper is reading it.
And this is what comes from North Korea.
This is coming from North Korea, according to their state-run newspaper. So, of course, their state-run newspaper is run by the government. The newspaper isn't going to be allowed to run anything that the government has not approved.
Approved, right.
Right, because that's the way North Korea works. So, also in this statement, the newspaper is claiming to have weaponry that can reach the continental U.S. and the Asian Pacific region. And they're saying it's an absolute weapon in quotation marks. And I believe CNN is assuming that is a hydrogen bomb. I don't know. I got to be careful, but that was the way CNN worded it, was the absolute weapon, quotation marks, hydrogen bomb.
Now North
So how does
Korea,
that go?
I mean, they'll say anything to kind of, I mean, they'll say crazy shit just to see if we pay attention. I mean, even though there's...
we're paying attention. They don't
Right.
need to say any more crazy shit.
Right.
What always reminds me of a peacock raising its tail, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Get your attention so you pay
They
attention.
can stop, though, really. We're not...
But, I mean, it is dangerous that we're doing this much saber rattling with both
with
countries.
somebody who is so unhinged, and I don't know whether I mean Trump or whether I mean Kim
Well, I mean, have you
Jong-
seen the Der Spiegel cover?
Yes.
Where it has both of them. It has a baby Trump and a baby
Kim
Kim
Jong-un.
Jong-un. I thought it was ill. Maybe that was his dad. I don't remember. But on one of those...
The newest crazy Korean.
Those rocking things that you put children on at
Remember
the
the ones
playground
that have
rocking
that have
horse?
a spring at the bottom.
spring at the bottom, and it's a
Not
atomic,
exactly a rocking horse, but it's an atomic bomb, and they're both just
and they're
holding
both
on.
sitting on and rocking on it. It's
and,
really
and the title is like Deadly Game or something like that, but
not a
way
clever.
to hit the nose on the. It's not as clever in English.
They're not the, we are,
They are
at
the
a
Germans.
dangerous point with two not so stable, almost like leaders of these two countries, and it's kind of scary. I mean,
Which two aren't stable? I mean, like, can you choose two?
well, I mean, I'm saying
Right
that
now, yes,
with
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump. I mean, it's who has the bigger ego. As I said last week, they're both replicating what each other does. I mean, Kim Jong-un is going out and hitting the club scene, and then staying at a giant resort, and he's trying to handle his business at his resorts.
It's a
So-
nuclear wiener pissing
That's what I was going to say.
contest.
How much dick swinging can there be?
Very true.
And nuclear wieners.
Well-
Nuclear wieners. That's my.
Well, do you wonder?
Gross.
I wonder how much Trump really comprehends that this is the gravity of it all. You know?
You know, do you remember? So, when our kids, you and I are about the same age, and
Right.
when our kids were little, so we're talking when Jordan would have been like 4 and 5, and everybody was worried that video games were going to desensitize children to the point where they wouldn't realize that game over
Was
in
really
real
over.
life could be game
Right.
over. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do.
Right? So maybe we were mistaken. And maybe Donald Trump, from what I understand, he consumes media like most of us consume. Well, I don't, but most people consume bacon.
Right.
Right? So I'm wondering if maybe he has consumed this media to the point where he honestly does not understand.
It's not. He can't see difference between reality and fantasy to some extent.
Right.
Yeah.
That if he launches a nuclear weapon, it's not going to be like one launch and game over. He's going to get, it's going to be multiple launches. Lots of people are going to die.
Well, and he's got a.
He doesn't care. He has like
He has
6
a bunker.
bunkers.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's
Right.
got a bunker,
He's
and
just gonna
we're
go
going to be
into
the
his vault and
casualties.
be fine.
And it'll be the mainstream.
But I
media's
do.
fault.
I think that you're right. I think that I'm not sure. To him, I think it's a game. I
Yeah.
think that all of it is what can I do and what can I get away with. And
It's the Apprentice show on steroids.
yeah, I mean, it's like the budget stuff. You wonder if it's
He literally just wants to play Monopoly, but like
real Monopoly.
for realsies.
I guess that's true. That's very true.
Have you ever played Monopoly with my children?
The thing gets flipped. That's how it ends.
It's
You don't finish a game of Monopoly.
We've never
The game
finished a
finishes
game
you.
of Monopoly.
You rage quit.
I've played Risk before, and it probably ends the same way that this is going to go.
Yes,
So-
yes. All right, so world news. We're going to talk more than just Trump on this one. We're going to look at France. They're coming up on. They just finished the first round of their elections. Thank you, God. They're going to actually go on to a second round of voting. I'm not 100% sure how their whole voting system works. All I know is they had this huge, massive field of
candidates.
Candidates, right. And it came down to Marine Le Pen and Macron, and I missed his first name. I didn't put it in there. It came down to them, and I believe there's actually a third one because
No.
it came so close.
No, so it's just Macron and Le Pen.
It's just Macron and Le Pen.
They
And-
start out with 4, and then they
narrow it
their
down.
way
Oh, there
down.
were like 10 on
No,
the
you
list.
can. They have a lot of political parties in
Yeah.
France.
a lot. And
But
it
it's
came
a
down-
parliamentary.
Okay, but it came down to those two.
Right.
So here's the thing. Le Pen, and I actually saw on Twitter that there's a hashtag going around on Russia now also that is actually promoting Le Pen. Basically, Le Pen is the female version of Trump. She was born into the wealthiest of wealthy families. She's never had to work for anything in her life. She is an extreme right candidate and like admits to it.
Well, this
like,
is actually the second time she's run for president, too. The first time, she made it to the first round, and the French were out in the streets saying that they were ashamed to be French for the fact that she had gotten to the first round.
Wow.
However, this time around, it's not working that way because she's doing the same thing that Trump's campaign did, and she's playing on their fears, their Islamic fears.
Well, she's leader of the National Front is the name of the party that she's leader of,
Well,
and it's
I
the same
wonder
one.
what they could be related to.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, and you know, and yeah, she's
Well, so I looked at it, and there are several things concerning about her, right? So she actually, their parties, I don't know how their parties actually work, but her party, the super right party, was actually headed up by her father before her. And instead of it being an actual election, she just took it over from her father. So it was handed from father to daughter. So you're talking an aristocracy, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that should be concerning. I would think of all of the groups in the countries, France would be no. You know, like La Guillotine. I think they learned their lesson. Maybe I'm incorrect on that.
No, they just it's an interesting place. A lot of Europe is really interesting. You know, Trump endorses Le Pen.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's not cool.
Frightening.
Yes, it's very frightening. There's very much, just like there is here, there's very much a nationalist movement going on in France and the UK, too.
So to the point when the shooting happened at the
yeah.
In France.
help me with that name, Champs-Élysées.
Champs-Élysées.
Yeah.
Champs-Élysées. The next day, Le Pen called for the closing of all Islamist mosques in the country and an immediate expulsion of those on France's equivalent of a terrorist watch list.
Now,
So
wasn't it
all
a
of them.
French citizen?
It was a French
It
citizen.
was a French
It was
citizen.
a French citizen,
Yes.
indeed. But all Islamist mosques. Now, I don't know what that includes. I don't know if that means from the least frightening mosque to the
Most
one
radical.
most
I would
radical
assume
group.
that it would mean every mosque.
Every mosque, which I don't know if that resonates to anybody else, but sounds like a Hitler move. And I hate to compare that, but is that not one of the first things as Hitler closed all of the synagogues?
Well, I mean, they firebombed most of them, but
What
Yeah.
do you think is going to happen?
Well,
yeah.
there's
And she also has a connection with Putin.
She has an excellent connection. She loves Putin. And like I said, there's a trending hashtag in Russia right now that is promoting Le Pen. I mean, they want Russia, the government wants Le Pen to win.
Now, how does this affect their representation in the EU?
They will leave the EU
yeah, if Le Pen wins, she wants to leave the EU
immediately.
And I mean, you know
Which
how
will crush the European
it'll
economy.
it'll probably
crumble.
It could collapse the EU altogether. And you know, if the EU collapses, it's going to financially impact every country that belongs to it, which this is my personal fear, and I don't have a lot of information or backing me up. This is just me. This is kind of what I see happening. If she wins, they leave the EU. The euro, you know, becomes worthless at that point if they leave the EU. And because it's kind of how France goes, just like how the US goes. You know, how France goes how Europe will, you know, incredibly impact Europe. And I'm worried that it could set off a serious global depression. You know, I mean, if that much. I can't see how the markets wouldn't be impacted by that significantly.
Doesn't the EU almost totally float Greece?
Pretty much, yes.
Pretty much.
Yes.
So,
Well-
I mean, like, I don't know how it affects all of them, but it would literally start a domino effect.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. That's what I imagine would happen. And like I said, I don't have enough financial background to.
And France isn't the only ones that are having elections this year that we need to watch, because Germany is also having their election cycle coming up. And
it's kind of a 50-50 on Merkel, isn't it?
The AFD, which is as close as you are legally allowed to be a Nazi in Germany, is making a comeback. And they are very anti-Merkel. There are a lot of people who are very pissed at her. Mexico is also having their elections coming up, which affects us a hell of a lot, because there is some worry that whatever Russia did with the U.S., they're going to try and pull again with Mexico.
And actually, I did hear rumors of that.
So
I haven't heard much on it.
And I'm pretty sure that if that happens, we will end up in war with Mexico, like actual war.
I don't like the idea that all of these people are making decisions based on are encouraging fear and hate. I mean,
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean, when did that become what we are? I mean,
always have. Think of the Puritans, even.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm not saying it hasn't been there, but how can they make everyone so scared all the time over things? It's like the things that go bump in the dark. You know, they turn it all into that, and
that's true.
Well, and I mean, part of AFD's rise in Germany is they just had a bus bombing over there, and
it was the soccer team, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the soccer team. So it turns out that the guy they found out who bombed it, and he's actually someone who just wanted the soccer team stocks to drop so that he could buy it up and buy up all of their stocks.
Well, that's twisted.
Yeah.
So back in the U.S., we are heading into what week number 7 that our buddy Donald Trump has decided to take another vacation.
I have this. So there's this website out for anybody interested. It's called Is Trump at Mar-a-Lago? And this week...
Mar-a-Lago, where luxury meets top secret government information.
There is no better place than the Mar-a-Lago. I hear they have great cake.
The best.
I mean,
chocolate
if
cake.
You can't have bread, you might as well eat cake, right?
Oh. Okay. So, no, he is not at Mar-a-Lago this weekend. However, 7 out of the 14 weekends he has been president. Oh, I feel vomit when I want to say that. He's actually spent 7 of those at that resort. He has spent 25 million tax dollars. And if you go to the site, there's actually a little drop-down bar, and you can choose what you want that $25 million to go to. And
rather than him being at
Mar-a-Lago. And I chose, because it's close to my heart, I chose kids' school lunches, right? So 61,000 children could have free lunch, 61,000 for a whole entire year. That was what I chose. You can choose like Meals on Wheels and homeless things and, you know, different spots like that, but 61,000 children.
And that is a great cause. If you really want to make a difference in your child's education and actually being part, call up your school, see how many kids actually have a balance or an outstanding balance in their school lunch. Pay off a kid's lunch. I mean, there's no better way to help them succeed than making sure that they have the nutrition and the nourishment to get them through the day.
Yeah, kids really do concentrate better.
Well, I mean, who can concentrate when they're hungry? I mean,
right? No.
Yeah, I mean, and kids, especially kids, there are so many people who are food insecure in the United States that and it impacts children.
The worst.
Yeah.
I mean, it really.
And I mean, there are entire counties in Kentucky who are all on free and reduced lunch, or free lunch. Not even reduced lunch, but free lunch, the entire county.
Oh, I can't remember the stats. I remember I read something on Owsley County because, of course, that's the one that gets pumped out the most.
Okay. Well, turning to Kentucky news, what's happening here in our lovely Commonwealth of Kentucky?
Well, I'm going to quote Tom Perez, and we're going to... we used to call Matt Bevin, we used to call him Tiny Trump, right? But I kind of like Tom Perez's
His
quote.
nickname for him?
His nickname was Trump on steroids. I can appreciate that. So, Matt Bevin, let's just go. So his first goal is to overhaul our state's Medicaid program. And we all know the first thing he did when he got in was Ditch Connect, which I believe was like considered one of the most successful state-run.
I believe it was considered the most successful.
Yes, was it actually?
Yeah.
It was the gold standard that other states were looking at.
So we had the best system for Medicaid and the whole shopping system for health insurance
through the American Care Act.
Through the American Care Act.
The Affordable Care Act. I'm sorry.
Bevin, of course, came storming in, ripped it out from underneath people, and said, "No, no, no, no! I know what's better." Right. So now he is also looking to continue overhauling the actual Medicaid program. I appreciate an overhaul, but I think his plan of an overhaul is actually to burn it down and totally ruin it. So he's saying that he is going to aim to controlling costs and encouraging a more personal responsibility in consumers. Changes that would include the elimination of basic dental and vision benefits for most able-bodied adults. You would be able to earn back some of your vision and dental benefits through a rewards program.
Like with Speedway?
That's
Kinda,
was
you get an
my
account.
first thought.
Yeah, you
and
get an account.
yes, it is kind of that. So like in your rewards account, in your rewards program, you can accumulate points for activities like passing the GED, completing a job training, completing wellness activities. You can stop smoking. And those points will go towards the purchase of services like dental or vision care.
My question with that is, what if you are a high school graduate who has a job making $8 an hour?
See, and that's the thing a lot of people don't understand.
And don't smoke.
Well,
yeah, a lot of people don't understand that most of the people who are on Medicaid or some type of assistance are the working poor. That they actually contribute into society, and there's been the stigma that if you receive any type of welfare, that you are a dole on the state or on the federal government.
Well, you're just flat out lazy.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
so one of the critics says the requirement to work or volunteer up to 20 hours a week is great, except that most people who are receiving specifically these Medicaid, this expanded Medicaid, they are already working at least 40 hours a week.
Well, and if I remember correctly, so it's limited at people who make $16,500 a year.
No.
In terms of,
I'm actually $500 short of qualifying for the expanded Medicaid, and I mean, I work 40 hours. I would make, not to talk about my financial, but I make $21,000, so it's whatever. It's just above $20,000.
Well,
and that would qualify you for
and that would
complete
qualify
Medicaid.
me for complete Medicaid.
Well, and I know they're talking about going to where they have a $30 copay, and people, the working poor, can't afford a $30 copay.
Not every, like for every office visit kind of thing?
Yeah, and when you talk about taking away these things that they have to earn as rewards and, have to volunteer for 20 hours a week, I mean, volunteering is always great. Nobody's going to argue with that, but it seems almost like indentured servitude because you're poor, I mean...
It totally is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but this is Bevin's goal. I think he kind of looked at, if you remember correctly, New Mexico outlawed making kids work for their free lunches. Right? Did you hear about that?
So but I'm glad they did.
They used to have kids sweeping the floors and wiping down tables in front of their classmates because they got free and reduced lunch. Right? So New Mexico, said, no, we're not going to allow that. That's shaming. And basically, I think Bevin kind of looked at it and said, I like shaming the poor.
I don't even know if that's necessarily how they view it. I just think that they have they're so removed.
Yeah, such a disconnect.
Yeah, that they just don't see how that's a problem, because you should work. We should all.
I don't
earn, work for what we need and and I get that. But
whenever I hear about these politicians, I think of the scene from Arrested Development where the mother is talking and she's like, "Oh, it was just one banana. How much can it cost? $10?" Like, she completely has no idea how much it costs to buy a banana.
Bananas are almost a
yeah,
luxury.
I mean, this discussion's about a chocolate-covered banana. Like, it's not gonna cost $10. But I think that's how far removed these people genuinely
but
are.
when you are working 2 jobs, you're working 40 to 60 hours a week. I wish I had the stats up for how many hours you actually have to work in the state of Kentucky for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. I see everybody grabbing their phone, pulling it up. But when you're working those 40 plus hours, to ask somebody, I need you to give up 20 more hours to volunteer doing something. I don't even know it doesn't list what these volunteer spots are. That's a 60-hour week.
Well,
do any of these politicians actually work 60 hours a week? And the more I think about it, I get angry because, and it goes back to Bernie Sanders, and it goes back to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. There is this disconnect. People who are working 40 to 60 hours a week just to freaking make ends meet, they don't get a vacation.
Or they can't make ends meet.
Or they still can't make ends meet, right. And you have these politicians that are like, I'm going to go on a 3-week vacation every 4 months.
In Kentucky, to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, working 40 hours a week for 52 weeks a year, so no vacations.
No vacation.
You would need to make $14.10 an hour.
And that's not even the average wage here.
No.
I mean, no, it doesn't work.
So now our wonderful governor has been getting his hands in other things as well. So tell us a little bit about some of the stuff that he's promised to do.
Well, he's promised to release his taxes just like Trump. He really literally is a tiny Trump, or Trump on steroids. He too promised that he was going to release his taxes. He has also said, I'm not doing it. I don't have to. Well, after 22 years, and this is the first time in 22 years in this state, both Republican and Democratic governors have agreed to release their taxes. The first time in 45 years for the president. And they're not doing it. He refuses. And then he says, as does, or whatever, Trump, that nobody wants to see their taxes. That nobody cares what they pay in taxes or what they don't pay or what they spend their money on. So I thought, well, let's look that bad boy up, right? So according to CNN, between 55 and 65% of all Americans want to see the taxes of the president, the governor, their senators, whomever is running.
Well, I'll tell you why.
What their candidate is.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why. I read that, so in the last release that they got their hands on for Trump, I think his earning that year was $150 million. That if he's talking about rolling back the alternative minimum wage tax, that if that goes away, the only people that benefit is
the 1%.
It's the 1%. It would have reduced his taxes on that $150 million to $5 million. It would have reduced it from $150 million. I mean, from the earnings. I don't know what he actually paid on $150 million, but it would have reduced whatever he paid to $5 million.
That just pisses me off.
I mean,
you know what? I will gladly not care about his taxes if he sends me $2 million.
Maybe if he sends everybody in the United States $2 million.
That might be the smartest plan he's got. I'll No, I'm not going to vote for him
No,
if he sends me $2
no,
million.
Governor
But-
Bevin. I mean, him not releasing his tax. He's not telling a lot of things lately. I know that there's this other issue that's been going on as of last week about where his residence is.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with what's happening with our governor and buying a home at subprime levels, he and from someone that he appointed to the retirement system, so that this is somewhat speculation because he is also refusing to tell anything about this property. This property was bought into an exclusive area of Louisville, and they've questioned the Courier-Journal has questioned the governor's office because once they actually thought they saw a state vehicle on the property, they went to question.
The neighbors were reporting that there was activity and state people, state security and stuff on that property, and so then they sent the Courier-Journal, and I'm not sure.
And once they got there, they got to the security, the state security guards, representatives from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, who would not tell them who lived there. Mm-mm. And when the governor has been questioned many times about this, he refuses to answer this question. And we're talking a huge subprime price that he paid or possibly paid for this home.
Well, and they are saying now that that's actually an accurate price, supposedly. Dana and I were discussing it started out as 16 acres.
Yeah, and then it went down to 10.
They didn't sell. He didn't buy all. If it was purchased, he didn't buy all the acreage, and so I haven't seen anything on.
But this price dropped more than half.
Well, I read that originally, a couple of years ago, I don't remember when it was originally sold, it was $3 million.
Right.
And that it was purchased for 1.6.
Correct.
And
but
I don't know what the
home
average
value
acreage is
rose between that time.
Right. And I know that I don't know what the acreage goes there. For there was less acreage. So I'm kind of, regardless, he put someone in power that he purchased a home from.
And he
allegedly purchased a home from.
He specifically ran his campaign. One of his huge talking points was, and he was always hitting the Democrats, saying the Democrats do pay to play, the Democrats do pay to play, and he did exactly that.
It's definitely sketchy. I mean, it's definitely cause for concern.
Well, Kentucky is one of the most corrupt governments.
I thought I read that it
governments.
Yeah. I don't think it was number one, was it?
No, it's not number one, but it's like within the top 10.
It was pretty high up there.
Yeah.
If our education score was as good as our corruption score, we would be in a totally different place.
So what happened was this one guy owned it, lived in it for quite a while, and then he sold it to what they call Anchorage LLC, which was actually him selling it to himself as a business.
Right.
So then it got sold again to Anchorage Place. Just add the place in. LLC. And that's when it really starts to get murky because this Anchorage Place LLC is owned by who is now
which is the same guy.
It's the same guy, and Trump. I almost called him Trump. Bevin elevated him to be in charge of the state retirement system,
which has a lot of its own issues. So I mean.
Oh yeah, a lot. But so basically, and now the Bevin family is living according to
the Courier-Journal.
The Courier-Journal and neighbors. The neighbors who live in that neighborhood are all saying it's the Bevins.
And of course, Matt Bevin has said, "Oh, people don't want to know where I live. They want to know about the economy of this." And
is there a governor's mansion here in Kentucky?
Yes, there is.
There is.
So
actually, right next door to the Capitol.
So he has a functioning residence available to him.
Would you put 10 kids in that place?
Right.
He has 10 kids?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I can say this. The one admirable thing about our governor is that he has been a proponent for the foster care system.
Absolutely.
Well, okay, sort of. Because, so I actually read up on this, right? Their oldest daughter, sadly, was killed in a car accident.
That's awful.
So they had 5 children, I think, at that point in time. I think she was the 6th. And so they decided they wanted to adopt. Yes, they had 6 kids. The oldest one was killed. They wanted to adopt through the foster care system. And the foster care system turned them down flat because they already had 5 children.
The foster care system in Kentucky is really weird. And that's really all I can say about it.
And I feel bad.
Because we do a lot of work for foster families, and they'll turn you down for pretty much anything. So
right.
But that does not.
But we
should not discourage folks from.
No. And that's like his one redeeming quality is that despite being turned down flat by the foster care system because you have too many children already, which blows my mind, he's still fighting for a better foster care system. And I can actually appreciate that with him.
Yeah, that is probably one of the few things that needs to be revamped.
But that's like the only thing I actually agree with him on. But I think that's until we have more information on his house, I think that's as much as we can say. Is it's a little suspicious, and pay to play is the exact opposite of what he said he was going to do.
You know what sounds delicious? A delicious meal from Blue Apron, and it's a great thing. And they have delicious meals like seared chicken and creamy couscous with olive oil and raisin pan sauce. They have great meals that sound so great. And they also have things like lemongrass burgers and with cabbage slaw and pickled carrots. I mean, it just sounds delicious. And it's really easy, and it's all made with fresh ingredients, and it's right to your door. It's delivered right to your door with the best stuff you can make. And it's all pre-portioned for you, and all you have to do is make this delicious meal. So if you'd like to try a Blue Apron meal, go to our website, Pod Bless Kentucky, and click on the link and get your first $30 off of your free trial or your trial and Blue Apron. All right, we're going to come back, and right now we're going to talk about what's happening in the news, the good news that is happening. So what else happened in the good news?
Well, in really good news, Exxon and Little Vlad did not get the oil sanctions waiver that they were hoping for. I will admit I had it predicted that the sanctions would be lifted within 24 hours of Trump taking office, because I had assumed that Trump was so far up Putin's ass that that's just what would happen. And then when Trump appointed Rex Tillerson, I was 100,000% positive that would happen within days.
Within days?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, these sanctions still could be lifted in the future,
Absolutely.
Just haven't happened just yet. So we're still counting down the days.
Well, it's the waiver. So there's the official way of ending the sanctions, and then there's a waiver that would
allow them to operate.
So do you think he's not signing the waiver because he's going to get rid of the sanctions?
See, he could do it executive order-wise also.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. If he's
it's awfully suspicious.
He very much likes writing his own name, so.
Yeah.
He does, doesn't he? Signing it. He likes the pomp and pageantry of
who's going to get the pen? Who deserves the pen today?
That makes me sick to my stomach.
So, what else is happening in good news?
Locally, good news. The Catholic Action Center.
Oh.
They have finally combined. They bought that piece of property. I wish I could remember where. But they bought the piece of
the one on Industrial Avenue.
Yes. Industrial Avenue. So, and they are finally combining their two places. They had the Community Inn and they had the Catholic Action Center. We would go and serve dinners, Christmas Day dinner, at the Catholic Action Center. And it was this dank, dirty, horrible little space that really didn't fit everybody.
They definitely needed a new location.
Oh, they needed a new location so badly, and I understand. Not only did they get this new location, so they got all new kitchen equipment. They've gotten beds because now the community inn is actually going to be in the same area. So
they've taken both locations and made it into one central location that they can actually have both services.
You can go from your meal to, the bed area, because before they had, if they would go from sleeping, right, and they would each have 5 minutes in the shower, 5 minutes bathroom time. And then they had to be out because then they had to get all the way almost across town to get to the Catholic Action Center to where they could eat their breakfast.
And then they would have to be taken back to that location
After
to wait in
dinner.
line so they could get in. So now they have a location, and I'm sure they're going to need some new things. They're going to need some stuff. What items do they need that the public might be able to help out with?
Well, like I said, they got all new kitchen equipment. They got all new beds. And my guess would be, at least from what I understand, they need twin sheets. They need, how did you put it, linens? Is that what you said, Dana?
Twin-sized linens,
Twin-sized linens. Pillowcases. I would guess, you can't have too many pillowcases.
Bath towels. I'm sure they probably need some toiletries as well, as they always do.
And if you're not sure what to donate, homeless shelters in general always ask for things like socks.
Always socks. Socks are so important.
Women's toiletries, things you don't really think about people needing.
They almost always need diapers and tampons and paper products that...
So the community inn isn't going to have children at it.
Okay, so they don't need diapers.
So they do not need diapers, but it is utilized by both men and women. I do believe it is the only co-ed facility, homeless shelter. There's the Hope Center for women, there's the Hope Center for men, and there's the Salvation Army, maybe the Salvation Army also. I'm not as familiar with it, but I do know the Catholic Action Center is a co-ed. They also have God's Net. I think they also combine God's Net into
if you're really not sure what they need, where you can take stuff to, or just a way to help out, you can contact them at 859-255-0301. And they're part of the God's Net program, and they'll be more than glad to help you decide what to bring and what you would like to contribute to this great opportunity that we have within our community.
But do remember that, and it is a co-ed facility, so be thinking both men and women. They're not going to care what color their bed sheets are or what color their towels are. But, like Jordan said, socks are important. Underwear is going to be important. Little things that we totally take for granted.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's better than a clean pair of underwear when you've been wearing the same pair for 2 weeks. So.
Ew.
Yeah, ew, but,
Ask some college-age boys.
Ew.
All right, we're going to leave off with that. Well, let's hear what's happening in the late-night comedy circuit as we do.
It's not that big of a surprise, I guess, Yeah. We all saw
this is where
like
Bill O'Reilly actually is making his exit.
O'Reilly has been accused of sexual harassment for years. And was this yesterday? Just yesterday, an African-American woman at Fox came forward claiming O'Reilly used to leer at her and call her hot chocolate. I know what you're saying. That's really sexist. Yeah. But remember, it's also pretty racist. Now, although this has been blowing up here back, stateside, O'Reilly's been vacationing in Italy. And just this morning was spotted shaking hands with the Pope. Things were going great until O'Reilly called him white chocolate.
Melissa McCarthy came on back to the Saturday Night Live group and with Sean Spicer.
So I can apologize. Yes, y'all got your wish this week, didn't you, huh? Spicy finally made a mistake. As we all know, President Trump recently bombed Syria while eating the most beautiful piece of chocolate cake America has ever laid eyes on. That's a fact, okay? People love that look on that cake. Now, in defending the president's decision, I said that unlike Syrian leader, the leader of son of what is his stupid name? I got Bazooka Felicia Ahmad Rashad.
All right, so it's been a great week. We played a little bit of a rerun from last week with the Melissa McCarthy because it was just that funny. Some of the things we have going on, we're going to take a look at the calendar coming up this week. And Sunny, can you tell us what's happening in our area and around?
Okay, so the most important thing that is happening this week, tomorrow from 6 until 7 p.m., Andy Barr is finally having a town hall in Lexington. It is not a paid event. Anybody can get in. It is at Beeler Auditorium, which is Lafayette High School. Like I said, it's from 6 until 7. They're going to, Indivisible, I believe, is going to be passing out cards. One is green.
And they're actually sponsoring the event, Indivisible?
I'm not sure if they're actually sponsoring it. Are they? Okay.
Yep.
But they're handing out cards. One will be green, one will be red. If you agree, you hold up the green card. If you disagree, you hold up the red card. And it is simply a way to voice your...
I'm really surprised that Andy Barr is cool with this idea that...
He's not.
Do you think he knows yet?
Oh,
I'm sure he knows.
Well, I mean, you can't bring signs in.
You cannot bring signs.
And I would like to add that it's limited to about 600 people, so there's
get there early.
Yeah,
and don't hold your breath that you're going to get your question called on.
Because that hour is going to go by very fast. And
I think that's done on purpose.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's limited. You know,
I think I think everything was done on purpose.
I think 6 o'clock on a Monday is very interesting too. I think that's going to be very limiting for a lot of people to be able to get home and get their kids settled and come back out.
Right.
I mean, I guess it's better than a 2:30 in Lawrenceburg.
Indeed.
That
Good
is
point.
very
true. All right, next on the calendar, Nehemiah Action Public. It's hosted by BUILD, which is Building a United Interfaith Lexington Through Direct Action. They are hosting this event on Tuesday, April 25th from 6:15 to 9 at the Heritage Hall Care Center on Vine Street, Rupp Arena. Basically, it's 2,000 people of faith coming together from diverse religious, racial, economic backgrounds from around Lexington and Fayette County. By attending, you'll be fulfilling the biblical mandate to do justice as we push for improvements to serious community problems. On Thursday, April 27th from 6 to 8 is the Achieving Dreams Scholarship Celebration at Crank and Boom on Manchester.
That's with the migrant.
That's Migrant Coalition. That is
network.
That has to do with our Dreamers.
Yes.
They need scholarship money.
Yes, that they're going to be awarding the scholarships at Crank and Boom. So go eat some ice cream and
enjoy. Cheer these kids on. They've worked hard. Lex Ed Community Forum, Thursday, April 27th from 6 until 7:30 at the Lexington Public Library. This is the first Lex Ed Community Forum. They will be presenting information about the current state of sexual education in Lexington. Hear from parents and students, community leaders about the need for comprehensive sex education, and provide an opportunity for the public to express their thoughts about sex education in Fayette County Public Schools. There will be free food. Next, Immigration Law Boot Camp on Saturday, April 29th from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. at the Paul Sawyer Public Library in Frankfort. Walk the Talk training on Saturday, April 29th from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. at the Northside Library Conference Room on Russell Cave Road. The People's March for Climate will be Saturday, April 29th from 2 until 3 at the courthouse. Meet and get to know your Sikh neighbor on April 29th from 4 until 7:30. It's in Lexington. This is an open house, and we're encouraging everybody to go in and see the temple, ask questions, and learn about the Sikh way of life. They are often targets of racism and mistaken identity, and they would very much like to break down that barrier. Go to the TWW Bluegrass website, and it actually gives a list from 4 o'clock until 7:30 of the different activities that will be taking place. On Sunday, April 30th, from 3 until 5 is the Together We Will Bluegrass monthly meeting, and that's going to take place at the Lexington Public Library on the East Side Branch on Blake James Drive, and we'll be in the large conference room.
Yep, and if you like to get out to the rallies and the protests, there is also one on, we're looking on Wednesday, April 26th. It is the Writers Persist, and it is a kind of a rally around writing and being persistent against different things that are happening. They're celebrating the arts and our First Amendment rights. So a number of great writers locally will be there. Tom Eblin, you have George Ella Lyons, you have Crystal Wilkerson. Yeah, I mean, the list is long of great writers in our community. We'll also have some great music by Carla Gover. And if you're not familiar with Carla, she's the one who wrote the Snowflake song for the Women's March.
Where is that Writers?
Oh, that is
Persist?
at the Carnegie Center for Literacy and Learning, which is on West 2nd Street. And so 251 West 2nd Street. So, I mean, and it's from 6 until 7 p.m. that night. And it sounds like it's going to be a great time with a lot of great writers.
It's only an hour long with all of those writers. That's too bad.
Know. So, all right. Well, that does it for our show this week. And we once again thank you for all of the time that you have listened. And I know this show has gone a little bit long today, but we're going to end it off with some great music from Carla Gover. And this is I'm a Snowflake.
I'm a snowflake, one of a kind. Ain't nobody else like me. I'm a snowflake, no two alike. I'm surrounded by diversity. Some people say we're gonna melt away. They don't know we're making plans. We're gonna organize, and when we open our eyes, we're gonna have ourselves an avalanche. Well, the GOP keeps telling me they're gonna make this country great, but a few of them have forgotten about the separation of church and state. Well, we learned about it back in elementary school. It's not a difficult thing to see that without it we could all be living inside somebody else's theocracy. I'm a snowflake, one of a kind. Ain't nobody else like me. I'm a snowflake, no two alike. I'm surrounded by diversity. Some people say we're gonna melt away. They don't know we're making plans. We're gonna organize, and when we open our eyes, we're gonna have ourselves an avalanche. I've heard it said that the welfare state is the root of all evil today. Those lazy bums need to suck it up, get out and work for honest pay. But repeating the thing doesn't make it true. We all know where the problem lies, when 1% owns more of the wealth than everybody else combined. Well, the president wants to sell our parks and eliminate the EPA. Roll back regulations and let the corporations have their way. But billionaires need to eat and breathe just the same as everyone. And if the crops all die and oceans rise, their money won't help them none. I'm a snowflake, one of a kind. Ain't nobody else like me. I'm a snowflake, no two alike. I'm surrounded by diversity. Some people say we're gonna melt away. They don't know we're making plans. We're gonna organize, and when we open our eyes, we're gonna have ourselves an avalanche. There's one more thing I'd like to say, just to set the record straight. Religious freedom doesn't guarantee your right to discriminate. I can marry whoever I want, and I've got the right to choose. So keep your laws off my body and out of my bed, and I'll do the same for you. 'Cause I'm a snowflake, one of a kind. Ain't nobody else like me. I'm a snowflake, no two alike. I'm surrounded by diversity. Some people say we're gonna melt away. They don't know we're making plans. We're gonna organize, and when we open our eyes, we're gonna have ourselves an avalanche. We're gonna organize, and when we open our eyes, we're gonna have ourselves an avalanche.